Well, what would you say to what bothers me is people don't realize how much power and control they do have to affect their life experience.
Right.
They think things are genetic. They think things are part of getting older. They think things are just the way it is. This is out of my control. They don't even question or think about it. And to their defense, sadly, they don't see a lot of examples of the contrary. We
Right.
don't see a lot of people who are over 40, over 50, over 60, who are vivacious and energetic and have clear thoughts and nice skin and, a decent figure. We just don't really see it much. We don't see
Right.
balanced, harmonized, self-actualized
No.
people very commonly. So tell us, how do we do that?
Yeah, I mean, as a culture, I mean, literally, we've gone downhill. They say something like 60% of people are overweight, 30 to 40% are actually obese. Um, Amount of diabetes, I used to say in 2001, the people born in 2001, the amount of people who are going to get diabetes from that group of people from 2000, the people who get diabetes are going to bankrupt the healthcare system. Well, that's before we throw in all the other stuff,
That's
right?
before the
Just
COVID
diabetes.
pandemic. And it's before
And,
COVID. I mean, wait, jeez,
yeah,
it's
and then you look at
winter's
people who
coming.
get it, comorbidity, and it's all about diabetes. It's all about blood sugar. It's all about weight issues with things like COVID. Well, talking about a wake up call, but you don't hear one person talking about prevention,
Nope.
talking about that,
Now,
right?
isn't that suspicious? Okay, let's just. I'm sorry, I have to just. I mean, right there alone, right? I mean, then where's the education on getting your immune system healthy? Where's the
None,
education on dealing with mental health and
none.
all an exposure to electromagnetic rays from computers and excessive Zoom and where's all the help? All we're hearing is this scare tactic narrative of,
Yeah,
death and gloom and the rates and the masks and the this
yeah,
and the that and stay away from people.
yeah.
They could
There's
potentially
three
kill
things.
you.
Yeah, mask, distance. Oh, four things: wash your hands, mask, distance, and the vaccine.
Don't forget the vaccine
That
is the answer, right? It always is the answer.
I
Is
mean, I've known for a long time that the media has been so biased, but now they've come out of the woodwork because we know from frontline doctors, from the Klingharts, Dr. Klingharts and Cowans, and all these people, and who's that guy in Texas, Robert? Gosh, I can't think of his last name. I mean, all these medical people have come out with easy treatments, easy preventions, be on the preventive track, make it so that if you do get it, you're not going to get really sick, da da da. But you can't even find that information. That information is being
censored.
censored and
Hmm.
squelched and banned. And wow, man, it's so crazy. So you would almost think there's got to be a backlash of people wanting to do that. But then look at it what it is. 60% of the people are grossly overweight. Um, they haven't obviously responded to the need to get in better shape, to take responsibility for their lives. They're being fed down this primrose path of comfort foods. Comfort doesn't mean nutritious. Comfort doesn't mean that it's going to make you healthier. It may solve an issue for a moment, maybe a bite's worth of time. So yeah, it's huge. When we came up with the whole idea, when I came up with the holistic health coaching, the six foundational factors. So if people would just own those, right? If they would just buy into it, if they would just spend some time doing it. I'm a big fan that if you wake up and you're awake and you're breathing in and out, you can make choices, right? You can make a choice of what you want to focus on. You can make a choice on how do you want to breathe. You can make a choice on what you want to eat. I mean, you got lots of choices, right? And you can make those choices for being same old. You can make choices to comfort food and be unhealthy. You can make choices to move in a direction that's going to bring you well-being. So from the moment you wake up, you have those choices. How cool is that,
And
right?
that's so empowering because I think people don't realize all the ramifications of those choices. They don't realize how, and I'd like you to talk about just briefly what those six principles are, because people
Right.
need to know, because they're not getting that information from mass media. But they don't
No.
even, people don't even realize too, like, obviously I know one is going to be diet and nutrition, but they might put together, connect the dots, that that's going to affect my body and maybe my weight, but they might not even realize how that affects the way your mind works. That
Right.
affects your memory. That affects your moods. There's so many more of these six principles that I'd like you to share, that are affecting many different factors that you're not even aware of. So please
Right.
share those.
Yeah. So we'll just throw in a little side note on that because it fits right in, is the work of Bruce Lipton. So anybody who's listening to this, they should go grab his book. You can actually get a
Yes.
free download on the internet. But he's basically, his book on epigenetics, he's saying,
Biology of belief.
yeah, he's saying basically that whatever you're thinking about doing, participating in, affects your genetics, right? So it affects how you express your body's being expressed. Well, how cool is that? So what are you going to pay attention to? The news, CNN, uh, the local health authority? Oh my gosh, I'm in California, and wow, we're going through a tough time with the government around here. They're giving no concept of how to be healthy. It's
Nope.
all about
None in the
lockdown,
nation.
shutdown,
None in the
none.
nation, Dr.
And the few
Oliver.
people,
There's
and the
not
few
nothing.
people who are being shut down,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you look, and if you believe biology of belief, which I strongly do, and he's talking about epigenetics, and he's saying, well, your believing is affecting your genes. Well, it's the genes that make your immune system, right? It's the genes that make your hormones, genes that cause your repair, your organs, your digestion, your heart rate variability is a real fun one to monitor. I do that every day myself. But man, check that out and then just start having some stressful thoughts.
Mm, yeah. And then you see the.
And you see in real time, oh my gosh, look at this. It's going, oh geez, it's going right over to sympathy. Oh my
Mhm,
gosh.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah. So the six foundational factors, and if we look at it from an epigenetical point of view, the number one we started with was very much for a very major purpose, and that was thoughts, because thoughts control so much of whatever else we do, right? And then back to epigenetics, you can have fearful thoughts or you can have passionate, joyful thoughts. And the crazy thing is, you can have a little bit of choice on that. Sherry Herbert, she's written a bunch of really wonderful books, but one of them in there, she talks about what she calls the dark room, light room. And she suggests you take two pieces of paper, one the dark room, we'll call it negative, disempowering thoughts, and the light room, positive, empowering thoughts. And you just start jotting down, or just keep a little scorecard with a little, like 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of thing, and just jot down every negative thought you have and every positive thought you have. And you'll be shocked about how many negative thoughts you have. In fact, probably all of them. And in fact, that's what she found out working with clients, was they're all in the dark room, right? And I think dark in this case, we're talking about we're literally blinded, right?
Mm.
We're not being able to participate. We're not able to see it. And it's being controlled by how our brain's working, how we're thinking. I'm a huge fan of a technique called ACT, ACT, Acceptance Commitment Therapy. And any books you can get on it, I'd highly recommend. But my favorite ones are by Russ Harris, Acceptance Commitment Therapy. So in that, you look at your life, you see how you're responding, you look at what your thoughts are, and then you look how you respond to these events. And most people respond in very negative ways. They respond with tightness, congestion, negativity, right? Indigestion, tension, body tensions, anger, headaches. And then you look at, wow, what if I could have that thought, that the issue come up, and I responded in a way more in line with things that I value, like maybe love, compassion. And you'll find that most people never respond that way.
Mm.
Never, unless it's like a poor little child on the side of the road, right? You want to help them. Well, what if you did that with every one of your issues? What if you responded to yourself like the injured little child? Whoa, man, that would be amazing. So thoughts is a huge one, right? Change your thoughts, change your life, all these different sayings out there. But how many people actually do that? How many people analyze what they're saying all day? The only way they get feedback is with some significant person in a relationship, and they finally get so bummed out they leave them because they can't stand their negativity or whatever it is, right? So thoughts, so powerful. The second one on there was breath, right? Breathing. Well, why was breath number two? Well, one reason is if you stop, you amazing. So what about, are there degrees of death, right?
Ooh,
Somebody, I can't remember, let me think who that was. Somebody had a great line.
wow.
They called them the vertical dead, right? The people walking around dead.
Oh, right, right, right. What's that? There's that saying that what did that doctor say that most people over the age of 35 are dead, are walking around dead. It's just that their corpse doesn't know it yet because
Yeah, yeah,
we're just existing. We're not really living. We're just going
yeah,
through the motions, you know?
exactly. No purpose, right? Purpose
Yep.
goes back to
No
thoughts.
passion,
Yeah.
no oomph.
What if you woke up and you had a purpose, right? That's a thought. Purpose is all thoughts, right? You woke up and you go, wow, what's happening today? Wow. You know what my purpose is to learn and to share. Wow, what could I learn? How can I share this? Holy smokes, I got things to do.
Well, energizes you. Everybody wants more energy, and they're
You
drinking 20
do.
cups of coffee and Red Bull, and they want energy, energy, energy. And it's like, well, you know, light yourself up from the inside, from your heart. Your heart can give you
Exactly.
energy.
Exactly. Exactly. And we now know with heart math and all these other studies, the resonance of your heart can be felt for 30 feet away. People know if
Sure,
you're on
for
purpose or
sure.
not.
Just
Yeah. So,
animals know, you know, children know. They
exactly.
gravitate, they go away.
Yeah. So, breath. I tell people in the class, I say, I know people who their whole career is working with the breath. Now, those could be people, pulmonologists, they could be asthma doctors, but there's other people working with the breath for the empowerment of the breath. There's yogi people, there's Dennis Lewis, he's one of my favorite authors. He's written many books on the breath, and it's such a powerful tool because it's a biofeedback device, right? If you start paying attention to your breath, you'll soon realize that your breath is constrained, it's not very good, it's not very full, it's not very deep, and it's a reflection. So I used to tell people when I talk to them on the phone or in person, I say, I can just tell by listening to you the state you're in. And they go, what? How's that? Well, I listen to their breath, right? I listen to their voice, the sound of their voice. I don't even have to see them. You can hear it in their voice. So, boy, is it possible to change your breath and change your life? Well, now we have people like Wim Hof, we have people like Buteyko, and people starting to learn about the power of the breath to change your life. It is huge. In the NLC classes, I would ask the people, especially in the beginning class, I'd say, do you really want to change your life? And of course, they're all like gung ho, right? They're the six packers, I call them. They're going to make a dent in the world and they want to change it. So I said, okay, I'm going to give you the tool to change your life, the most dramatically guaranteed tomorrow's going to change your life. And they're like, yes. I said, okay, here's what you're going to do. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, before you look at your clock, before you do anything, before you know what time it is, you're going to lay there in bed and laugh for 10 minutes. And they go, huh? Wait a minute. I'm going to do what? I'm going to lay in bed and laugh for 10 minutes. Yeah. And I guarantee it's going to change your life. Well, what is it doing? If you're laying in bed laughing, it's breath, right? It's breath work.
And
It's rather
organ work.
it's dramatic organ
Yeah.
work, right? And the breath is organ, right? It's the organ massager. It's the internal massager. So I tell them this, and I say probably 70% of the class comes back, go, well, I didn't quite make it. I don't know. 10 minutes is a long time. So I point out to them, I go, Well, listen, I have a really good friend who I got into laughter yoga. She's a brilliant medical doctor, retired now, but she's a brilliant medical doctor. I got her to be a laughter yoga instructor. And I was telling her about this thing I'd have my students do, laughter for 10 minutes. Because in laughter yoga, you have a 60-minute class, right? You're laughing and ah, ha, 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 ha. And in the class, they found out that if you laugh for a reason, most people laugh for a reason because it's kind of sick humor, right? It's a kind of a bad joke. It's like something happened to somebody, oh, somebody fell down. So they don't laugh because it's something really humorous.
Oh.
So what they found was they had a better response when people laughed just to act as if, right? So acting as if had the same response on the brain and body as if laughing at a joke. So I would say, just laugh. So she kind of got on my case. She said, well, that's so hard to do for 10 minutes. Why don't you just tell them 1 or 2? I said, well, the reason I told them 10 is because these are hardcore. These are trainers. These are going to be the best people in the world. And what I really want them to do is find out what is keeping them from doing it. Right? Why are they not able to lay in bed and laugh for 10 minutes? So what are the excuses? What's coming up? If they can't do that for 10 minutes, how are they ever going to, whatever their job is, whatever their passion, whatever their purpose is, how are they going to do that when sitting there laughing in bed for 10 minutes? There's so many things that come up. It's too noisy, it's too hard, it's too long, it's too, right? It's such a great tool for that self, that little talk inside. So,
Awareness. It's an awareness tool.
oh, it's such a good one too. So people would come back to class. I remember one time it was here up in Vista after the Institute moved to Vista. And this guy comes to the class and he goes, well, I couldn't do it because I'm staying at somebody's house, a friend's house, and I don't want to wake him up. I said, oh, wow. Well, why don't you go back tonight and tell them you're going to do it in the morning so they don't, you don't upset them. So he goes back. So it's a 3-day class, right? The initial one's 3 days. So he goes back and he tells them. It turns out they go, well, whose class are you taking this from? He goes, well, Dr. Oliver. Goes, oh, we know him. That's a great idea. Why didn't you do it the first morning?
Oh, that's so great.
You see, and so why didn't he do it? He had this mind thing. He had the gates. It's the classic one, the guy in the desert with the bars, but there's only bars that are being held up. You can walk around them, but the bars. So he had the bars in his mind that he was going to be a problem, or he couldn't do it right, or he can't laugh that long, or whatever.
The story.
And these people going, oh, it would have been so good if you had done it.
Right. I love
you
it.
gotta love it. Yeah.
What you just mentioned is we just do that all the time, right? We tell ourselves the story
Constant.
that we think, and it's just not even true.
It's not
Oh
even.
my goodness. All right.
And
So
that's why Byron Katie became so popular, right?
well,
Yep.
yes.
Look
Is
at
it
the
true?
story.
It
Is
just
it
ask,
true?
is it, how do I know it's true? Yeah. And that brings us back to the whole COVID belief system thing and masks work. No, they don't. Yes, they do. You need them and you're going to kill me if you don't wear one. And well, how do you know it's true? Well, then the only information we're getting is what we're getting. We're not getting all the
Yeah.
story we
No.
mentioned, but anyway, not to go back, but
Yeah.
okay, so you told us 2 out of the 4, out of the
So
6.
third,
Yep.
3 is hydration. Hydration. So that's kind of nice to be hydrated. So I do a fair amount of blood tests on my clients. And one of the things that usually comes back is you'll see a albumin, BUN, albumin levels elevated. And almost always elevated because they're dehydrated. Whoa, dehydration. Is that a problem for people?
Chronic,
It's a huge,
especially with the electronics, even more.
huge problem, right? So hydration, and then that brings up the whole issue of water sourcing. The buzzer that you just heard a few minutes ago was my water guy delivering my water.
Cool.
Spring water, right? Good
Yeah,
water,
you gotta have good
da, da, da,
quality. Quality is everything.
non-fluoridated. Yeah. So hydration. So Bob Mengele wrote books on that. The many cries for water. There's lots of good stuff on it. But unfortunately, again, a lot of people aren't hydrated. And then what they hydrate with are things that are actually dehydrating, like coffee and sodas and alcohol. So actually drinking real water is
Tea,
shockingly teas. I'm a big fan of
dehydrating.
teas. Yeah. Some of the green teas have really good medicinal values to them. So good one. So hydration. 4 is diet. So um, when I say diet, people go, "Oh God," they think dying. So we'll say nutrition. So in nutrition, there's like two parts to nutrition, right? There's quantity and quality. So quality brings up the whole issue of organics, biodynamic, fast food. So I always tell people get the highest quality food you can get, right? If you're on an airplane, well, your choices get slimmer, but highest quality food you can get. You don't want to go nuts about it, but you really want to start searching out because the quality of the food has gotten particularly less nutritious. Even bar companies that make these bars, the nutrition, you start reading the labels and you realize there's so much garbage in them, sugars, particularly high carb bars and
And
things like that.
the source, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
So quantity or quality. So um, quality of food is one of the big ones. Then quantities, how much do you eat? Right? And then what are the ratios in those quantities? So that brings up metabolic typing. What's right for you? What gives you the most energy for the most sustained amount of time? What is the timing of how you're eating? This whole idea of time restricted diets is gaining a lot of popularity for good reason, because most people just snack all day long, all night long. So they're
Mm-hmm.
constantly keeping their blood sugars elevated, blood sugars up, up, up. Um, Most people I see now, when their blood sugar's up and their HA1C's up, they think, well, it's kind of normal. It's just slightly up there at 117. No, that's like
117.
that's like in inflammatory states. So those are the big ones, quantity and quality. But the other one about that is, how do you eat, right? So I was a big fan of the slow food movement. And I really got into it. So I joined, and every place I'd go around the country and the world, I'd go, wow, there's slow food movements in your community. You should join it. Now, slow food didn't necessarily mean slow in the sense that eating or that. We'll come to that in a second, but it was about preparing food, sitting down. They called the table. What a concept. People sitting at the table
Like
and
a
actually,
ritual, like
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, community, which
Eating
brings
dinner
up
at
a
six
little,
o'clock with your family every night when you were a kid. Is that just what you did? It was just you
right,
talk about your day. I mean, all that is gone, gone, gone,
gone,
gone.
gone. Very rare is it now that people actually eat together, share their day's events together. In the polyvagal theory, that's one of my favorites. Stephen Porges, I'd highly recommend reading or listening to any of his stuff. But he talks about social engagement as being one of the most important concepts in feeling safe. And social engagement is when we're engaging socially with people, particularly our families. And how do people know that we're engaging with them? Is by looking at our faces. So, not to get off subject a little bit,
Yeah,
but
going
this
back to
whole
that.
idea
Here we go.
of masks and these
Mm-hmm.
mask mandates and these little kids wearing them, and they're not being engaged with their parents, with their siblings, with their co-kids. They're being literally learning to be fearful for life. I mean, how are you going to erase this from their mind of having to go outside at 4 years old and put a mask on and not being socially engaged? I'm seeing parents with their babies with a mask on. Here they have an infant, but kids learn the cues of the facial muscles. That's the whole concept of polyvagal, is through these facial muscle movement patterns, and they're not learning that.
And we all learn them even as adults. So in communicating, it's a normal part of our
Right.
communication is all those nuances that are totally lost. That
Totally
that
lost.
that that source of information that we just don't have access to now,
Yeah.
and that because of these
And that all
masks,
brings feelings of safety. And safety is the antidote to
self-perpetuating. Yeah.
fear,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when you can't even make eye contact walking, I mean, we go to the beach every day, then we walk down, and people don't even want to make eye contact. They're afraid to even make eye contact. Whereas before, a year ago, people would be saying hi.
Of
They give you a high five,
course.
people you don't even know.
Well, how about
So,
even with the children thinking, or people thinking that other human beings are potentially sources of death? Like
right,
you could possibly be something that could kill me. Something in you could kill me. So we're just now there's this idea that we could all potentially kill each other and not even
Right.
know
And it's
it.
completely
What?
fabricated. Yeah, completely fabricated. So back to food again. The other one
Hmm.
is how you eat. So we just mentioned about safety, polyvagal, the table, slow food movement. The other one is just how do you actually eat? I mean, when I'd ask the classes, I'd go, well, how many bites do you take before you swallow? And the average
Bites?
was three to four chews before swallowing.
I'd say
Three
that's
to four
high.
chews.
I'd say that's high.
Yeah. So if you want to digest your food well, you got to start by chewing it well.
Slow down.
So if somebody was going to do a really interesting experiment from listening to this, if they would try taking their very next meal and chewing every bite till it was liquid before they swallowed, they would be shocked at how much better their digestion would be. They would also be shocked at how little do they chew their food. And
Please,
they also,
we don't chew, we inhale.
yeah,
and we
completely.
and we multitask while we're doing other things,
Right.
driving, reading, watching TV, whatever, yelling at
Yeah.
the kids, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're not even presently eating our food, and we wonder why we overeat, and it's part of the problem.
Yeah. There's good evidence that multitasking is one of the most stressful things that a person can do. So you talk about multitasking, what we used to do, oh, well, I could just eat, do this, do
Yeah.
that, be working on the computer while I'm eating. That really impacts somebody's digestion. So if it's not strong to begin with, or it's somehow challenged, or you've got challenges coming up, that doesn't enhance your well-being at all. So those are all big ones related to quote unquote nutrition. How you eat, the state of mind you are in when you eat, go hand in hand, right? It's very empowering. Um, then the other one is the big one is exercise. I loved it at the start of this lockdown. You couldn't even go on the beach here. They shut down the beaches. The healthiest place to be, you couldn't even go. They had multiple police cars guarding the parking lots at the beaches, arresting somebody out on a paddleboard. Oh my God, just
Unbelievable.
the insanity. These people are just, they've completely ignorant of what health
They're
is.
going to make it illegal to be in the sunshine soon,
Yeah,
which is
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
equivalent. We have the
Right.
source.
So exercise, move it, use it,
Mhm.
or lose it. It's so true. And then there's the other side of it, abusive exercise. I see a lot of that, especially in the exercise world. I used to do some consulting work for the local Gold's Gym, and I finally had to stop because there was so much abuse going on. So it works both ways, but obviously, even now it's worse for, under exercising. I've got a little thing I do every day. I have a little chin up bar that fits in the doorway to the bathroom, just clips on. I bought it at CVS Gym 15 years ago.
I
Clips
have the
on.
same thing.
Yeah, I do my little chin up things. I do my wall pushes, pulls, pushes, side bends, da da da, tricep push ups in the bathroom. I do it every day, right? It's so easy to do something. You can do sprinting in place. You don't even have to get your heel off the ground. I've got people with knee problems, hip problems who can do it. Get your heart rate up. Easy,
Something,
easy, easy.
something, do
Yeah,
something.
right. And then the last one is circadian rhythms. And circadian rhythms is a huge one because it's what happens during a 24-hour cycle. And we could expand that, we could shorten it. We could say a 24-hour cycle, we could say a weekly cycle, we could say a lunar cycle, a monthly cycle, and yearly cycles. So what happens in that time cycle? What are your sleep patterns? We now know one of the most stressful impacts on your health is your habits of sleep. Poor sleep, and it's estimated anywhere between 30 and 60% of people have extremely poor sleep patterns, sleep habits. They go to sleep different times. A lot of children during the week, well, when we had school, would go to sleep at one time. On weekends, they'd stay up really late. It takes a couple of days to adapt back to going to sleep early again. So sleep patterns is such a big one. Sleeping in the
Critical.
dark. I have a client with COVID in Chicago. has a big new apartment building, no drapes in the windows, light from outside. Garbage trucks come down and clean out the garbage, at 5 in the morning, noisy. So taking care of light and noise are two big ones. I'm a big advocate of custom earplugs for sleeping with. If you're any place where you're bothered by noise, they cost you about $100. It's probably one of the best investments you'd ever make, but they're custom. They're fitted and molded to your personal ears. And then darkness. When I moved into the place I am here at the beach, I didn't have any good drapes, and I just bought survival blankets. There's like tinfoil ones,
Yep.
and I just stuck them up at night until I could get some blackout drapes. But even that worked pretty well, right? They're like that little thin kind of aluminum blankets, and they probably block EMFs. Now that I think about it, that's 15 years ago. But I went to REI and got these survival blankets and just taped them up. But darkness. They found out that if you're in a light room, it affects your gut biome. Now, the study on this was really interesting. What they took was a flashlight and they shined it on the back of the leg. So that means you have skin light sensors in your body.
Not
And
just your eyes. That's what people have to
not
know.
just your eyes.
All your skin cells have sensors, photon sensors.
Right. So people think, oh, I'll just sleep with a blind on my eye. No.
Yeah.
Your whole body. So dark room, quiet room are really valuable for sleep.
And I'll just add that also includes the light from electronics. So people think, oh, my room's dark. I'll go ahead and do what Dr. Oliver said. I'll put a thing over my window. Right. But then they get the night clock right next to their head shining that blue light, which is definitely going to keep them up. So yes, dark means dark.
Yeah, if you're going to have a light on for your clock, so ideally it's going to be a red light, right? So it's like the submarine movies. They used to have the red light on.
Yeah,
well, it's like
that's
that.
What I have.
And you want to move it across the room, right? So it's not right there. So those are two really valuable things. So let's just say somebody wanted to listen to this talk, got motivated, they want to change their lives. They could just go through what we just talked about. And what if they said, okay, I'm going to take one of those and work on it today? What if they said, oh, I'm going to do all 6? How could I do that? Well, let's see. I could go to bed on time. I could chew my food well today. Geez, let's see. What can I do for my positive thinking? Well, positive. Well, what am I going to focus on with my thoughts? How am I going to get out of this cyclone I'm in, this hurricane in my life? How am I going to do that? There's a great line I like to use. I think it's in Zen. They go, suffering is optional, right? Pain is a given, but suffering is optional. So let's see, am I suffering? Oh man, I'm kind of depressed. Oh, I'm kind of out of it. Oh, not feeling good. Wait a minute. Is that life or is that suffering?
You take back your power, take back your narrative, you stop thinking that these things are not in your control when there's so much that is in our control that affects how we think and feel and look. Let's control the things we can. Like you said, your response to the stress is more important than the stress.
Right. So it's going to be stressful no matter where you go. I mean, I love the old concept, wherever you go, there you are.
Yes.
Right? So the grass is always greener. Who wrote that book? Oh, John Kabat-Zinn, right?
Yep,
Wherever you go, there you are.
There you are. He's from
Great
Boston.
little book on mindfulness, right? And it's just like, oh gosh, it's so bad here. Maybe I should move. Oh yeah, my sister's always talking about moving out of California or moving, never does. But right. So
but you take yourself with you, so that and I just want to re-emphasize for people that the 6 foundational principles that you and the CHEK Institute came up with is the foundation for all these trainings for internationally for professionals. These are the tools that enable us to have the stress response that we want, and getting our vehicles right and our bodies right. It's giving us a chance to respond and not react. By paying attention to these simple factors that are in our control, we can control our response to stress.
Right. Absolutely. And there's an old saying, I think it's again another Zen one, something about this second arrow, right? The first arrow, you just respond intuitively, right? You jump out of the way.
Yeah.
But the second one, you gotta go, oh, wait a minute. I don't have to respond that way. Why don't I train myself so I don't have to withdraw with fear when I hear
Mm-hmm.
the news come on? Instead, I'll go, wow, let's see, maybe I better treat myself better and change the channel.
Yeah, or follow the science and follow the money and consider the
Yeah,
source and
right.
but that's about thinking for yourself as well, and then taking the information and putting it against your own logic and your own brain, and then taking sovereignty of your own life and your choices
Right.
of this is how I choose to live and what I choose to believe and expose myself to and what's good for me. What's good for me, my mind, body, and spirit. This is making me scared, afraid, sick, nervous. Then why am I doing it? Why is it in my life?
I know.
So